Hey everybody, we're back with another cold hardy citrus taste test. And in today's episode, we have two pretty special fruit here. So first I want to give a big thanks to Virginia Fruit Grower for sharing these with me. Now on the left here, we have the Ichang lemon, which basically just looks like a giant yuzu. It's speculated to be some sort of pepita and pomelo cross. But it's one of those mysterious pepita type of citrus that we're not sure if it's its own species or if it hybridized a very long time ago and just kind of stayed pretty true since then. But quite a fascinating fruit there. But on the right here, and I thought this pairing was interesting because of the sheer contrast in size. I mean, this is a very large, one of the largest hardy citrus. And this is one of the smallest, if not the smallest I've seen. This is the OP Nagami. So this is one of Dr. Brown's fruits. He was a cold hardy citrus enthusiast and researcher, and he developed a lot of really cool hybrids like the 10-degree tangerine, for instance, Clemuse 2-2, 3-3, things like that. But this was an open pollinated seedling of the Nagami Kumquat. And according to Virginia Fruit Grower, and from what I've seen in his videos, this is the only kumquat that has survived with damage, but that pretty much goes for all kumquats in colder zones. But this is the only one that has survived in his location. So he's in Virginia Beach. I believe we're a little warmer than that, so this might be, I'd say at least for our zone, one of the only kumquats that we could try as well. We do have Thomasville Citrange quat, which is similar to a kumquat, but in terms of pure kumquats, this one seems to rank very highly compared to the rest. So it's pretty interesting to see a true kumquat that can survive down, 10 degrees or below, really. So that's really cool to have these two here together. Let's do a little comparison of the size just to see quite how much these weigh compared to each other. So obviously this isn't, a full comparison to see like which fruit is better, but more so just to appreciate two very different and what I think are going to be very tasty cold hardy citrus. Neither of these has any trifoliate in its lineage, so I'm not expecting this to be a bad taste test at all. So to begin here, this Ichang lemon here is weighing in at a whopping 330 grams, which makes it a very large fruit. And our little OP Nagami here, just registering as 2.5 grams. So this is probably the smallest, like I mentioned. I think the next smallest I had a Thai try that was, it must have been 20 grams when I weighed it. It was a particularly small one because of the circumstances for the specific plant it came off of, but I haven't had a whole lot of fruit quite this small, at least in the cold hardy citrus realm. But kumquats are known to be some of the smallest citrus, and this one in particular that we're sampling is very teeny tiny. So, we can start off with the zest here. And I did scratch the Ichang lemon to start. And I will say this one reminds me a lot of yuzu. So we're going to scratch it again and have a little taste of the zest. Wow, I smelled it just from here. Oh yeah. So Ichang lemon, at least to me, smells a lot like yuzu. It's a little less sweet. I had some family smell it too, and they agreed it's not as sweet as the yuzu scent. However, most of the components are very, very similar. I mean, this is in essence a giant yuzu to me, at least in terms of smell and appearance. We're going to see about taste, but taste I don't expect to vary too much either because yuzu itself just kind of tastes like a fragrant lemon, maybe a little lime in there, but it's a pretty basic sour citrus otherwise. It's really the aroma and the zest that really make it distinguishable from like a normal lemon, at least in the taste department. We'll have a little taste of this zest here. And that's quite good. It's a slight teeny tiny bit more bitterness than the yuzu, but otherwise I'd say that's a high quality zest. That is something, yeah, that's something you could definitely use for cooking or in place of a lemon zest. And it would be similar, it'd just have a little more like floral notes to it. So that's pretty good. Okay, so let's swap this for the Nagami. And this is going to be a really funny one to try and get something off of. Because it's just so tiny. And the thing is with kumquats anyway, we're going to eat the peel because the peels are edible on them. We'll give that a smell. It's a lot lighter than the Ichang lemon, but I do think it's just like a kumquat. Kind of like an orange smell to it. And we get a little taste of that zest. Oh yeah, wow. The zest probably tops the scale on the Nagami. I mean, it's very high quality. Like, you can actually enjoy eating it. And that's the fun thing about kumquats and kumquat hybrids is, at minimum, the peel is edible and not bitter. But with pure kumquats like this, the peel is sweet and enjoyable. And in some cases, it's even better than the inside of the fruit. So now, I think we are safe to cut these guys open. Yeah, maybe we'll start with the Ichang lemon just to get this out of the way. It's a very large fruit, so I'm expecting a good amount of juice and seeds, things like that. There's a lot you can fit inside here. Okay, it's dripping a little juice, but not excessively. And you know, it's funny, the inside, to me, looks very similar to a citronmello, or like a grapefruit. The smell is really, really nice, though. Yeah, very yuzu-like, very lemon-like. You can maybe detect like a hint of that grapefruit or pomelo, maybe a little more pomelo side, but similar to both, really, because it does have those floral notes. That smells really good. It's definitely, it's similar enough to yuzu where you almost can't stop smelling it. They're that pleasant to smell. Okay, so we're gonna attempt to cut this in half, but I don't know how successful we'll be. And the thing with this Nagami here is, and look at that, wow. It's so tiny. There's not much juice or anything there to really test. I mean, we'll get a Brix reading on this, but there's no way we're getting a pH reading. So we're just gonna have to probably default to whatever a kumquat tends to be. The thing is, because there's not a whole lot of juice, even if the juice was very acidic, this is still gonna taste like a sweeter fruit. It's probably gonna be quite a tasty kumquat. So in terms of seeds, Nagami's got it going for seeds. It has none. Ichang lemon has many seeds. The peelability here, I mean, the Nagami, there's no way you could peel that. It's just like not possible. It's too small anyway to even try, but even if it was bigger, you could see everything's just quite tightly adhered there. In terms of the Ichang lemon, it does give a little bit, but it seems more difficult to peel, especially since it's very juicy. So if you did manage to peel this successfully, it's going to be quite a messy experience. But it's probably a little easier than like a Dunstan citronmello, not as easy as a Sacaton. So it might be somewhere in that realm between those two. we'll kind of think about that a little more and see where that falls. But you know what? In terms of juice, it is quite juicy. It's not topping the scale, but that's probably somewhere around like a 9. Yeah, I think Sakaton is like a 10. I kind of consider that one of the highest because that thing you cut it and you squeeze it a little bit even by accident and it just pours juice out. This isn't quite as bad, but definitely very, very juicy anyways. In terms of the Nagami here, I mean, for its size, it's very juicy. We have to think relatively because it's such a small fruit, it's not going to be dripping out. But when I squish it just a little bit, I can see there's a lot of juice in there. So that might rank similarly just on a relative basis here, if we're taking size fully into consideration, as we should. But let's see, everything else, I think we are ready to get into some taste testing, which is fun. I'm really excited to try this because it smells really good. And I'm really glad we got to obtain the fruit this season because my Ichang lemons that I grafted out this season, they're simply not old enough or large enough to bear fruit yet. But in the coming years, we will certainly get some. We'll go for a taste here. Make some really nice looking slices. And they smell great, so that's going to impact the taste experience here for sure, but let's go for a bite. That's more sour than I thought. Wow. Interesting. So you see why it's called a lemon. The sweet smell is almost deceiving because you want to bite into it like a grapefruit or a pomelo or something. But it's definitely sour, closer to a lemon. Maybe not quite as sour as a normal lemon, but approaching it. Flesh has a good texture. And it almost does have a pinch of grapefruit in there. Yeah, if I had to say, it's almost like 75% lemon, 25% grapefruit in terms of flavor. And yeah, in terms of the aroma, it was that kind of lemony, floral. You almost get like I'd say with the yuzu, and it holds true for this, you almost get like a honey smell or something in there, something sweet. Not as sweet as the yuzu, but you still get it. So flavor and aroma are very nice on this fruit. This definitely makes a perfect lemon substitute, no doubt about it. Again, it's got that slight like grapefruit bitterness in there, but not bad at all. It doesn't take away from the experience, in my opinion. With how juicy this is, this would make you a lot of lemon juice if you're using it for that. But yeah, sourness, it's very sour. Sweetness, it did have a little bit of sweetness, but it's quite overshadowed by the sourness. You're not going to eat this out of hand unless you really love sour stuff. Bitterness is slight. Trifoliate influence is none, of course, but I consider this a very edible fruit. It's not dessert quality, obviously, like you're not going to sit down and just eat it in most cases, but I still consider this a very usable fruit. You'd use it for, juices, cooking. I mean, this would make a really good marmalade even. Yeah, kind of similar to a yuzu, I think this would. It has that slight bitterness, but so do other marmalade fruit, and that doesn't stop them. Okay, so I'm going to have to ration the kumquat here. I do want to save a little for my wife, but this is going to be very hard to get a good taste on. So we're going to split this into 2 halves, and try and make the most of each one with the OP Nagami. It's a really cute kumquat here, so let's go for our first bite and see what this thing's about. That's delicious. I mean, probably because of the pulp to skin ratio, but that's, in my opinion, perfectly balanced. Most people might find it biased towards the tart side, but I think there's enough of that peel where it tastes nice and sweet. Get another really tiny piece. I'd say it's fairly sour, but it's very sweet. In terms of bitterness, there's none, really. I didn't get any there. No trifoliate influence. I would say that's a dessert quality fruit. Kumquats in general, to me, they are perfect for just snacking, like if you were eating grapes, but citrus. The only thing is kumquats tend to have like so many oils in the skin that your mouth can feel kind of tired of eating them after a bit. But in terms of their flavor, they're delicious fruits, and this one's no exception. This is probably one of the best kumquats I've had, because some of my favorite are the fukushu, the miwa kumquat is pretty good too. I enjoyed that one. I mean, Nagami is good as well, but in terms of my favorites, yeah, fukushu's up there. I like the centennial kumquat, but that one, I believe, and I think others have speculated this too, that it's more of like mandarin quat or orange quat. I think it's a mandarin quat, but that one is probably my favorite otherwise, but this is really, really good. I wish I had just like a small bowl of these to pop them in my mouth, but very happy with OP Nagami. The flavor, it's like we'll take our last bite. It's like hard to describe kumquat. It's a little different than a mandarin, but similar. Definitely got like mandarin and orange flavors, but kind of independently, you know? Like an orange can taste different from a mandarin, and it almost feels like it has both mixed together, which is pretty unique there. In terms of its uses, I mean, it's kind of hard to juice it, but you could definitely use it for marmalade or fresh eating. Kumquat marmalade is really, really good. Same with like Thomasville citrange quat. A lot of the quats make really good preserves, just because the peel is sweet enough where you could use all of it. Yeah, that's an impressive fruit. Honestly, both of these are, but really, really tasty for the Nagami. We're gonna see if we can squeeze out an ounce of juice for the bricks. It's gonna be difficult for this one, but we'll try it first because I know we'll have no problem with the Ichang lemon here. So we got our bricks refractometer there. Gonna squeeze a teeny little bit of juice. I think we got just enough to make it work. Perfect. I'd be happy at least with the bricks reading on this. Wow. That came in at a 15. That is incredible. Alright, so reading quite high compared to a lot of the other hardy citrus that we've measured. Let me get this rinsed off and then we'll check out the Ichang lemon. Alright, so I can probably see there's just a lot of seeds here in the way, so okay. Perfect, there we go. Let's get a nice reading on that one. And that's coming in at 11, which is still pretty acceptable. It's on the higher end for some of these like sour, using it more as an acid fruit for cooking, things like that. It's definitely on the higher end for a sour citrus, at least from what we've evaluated this season so far. So compared to the rest, in terms of pH, we can't really measure the Nagami. I imagine this would rank similarly to any other kumquat. I might just put that for the ranking, because at least it tastes pretty similar to the rest. But in terms of the Ichang here, we could at least get a preliminary pH reading on this guy. There's a lot of seeds coming out here. Wow. Might get some of these out of the way. Okay. Now we can get some. There we go. And pretty much right off the bat there, that's looking like it is going to read like a 3. I want to say, oh, I'd say below a 3. That might be reading, in the 2s somewhere, like maybe high 2s. That's definitely possible, because that has been the case with the most sour citrus that we've done. Not to say this is as sour as the most sour citrus that we've had, but it's quite sour. It is definitely a lemon, so I imagine here this is going to be less than 3. That's just our guess right now. Of course, we'll change it once we find out specifically with our pH meter, because at least with this one, we can squeeze out the juice into a cup and get a full measurement. But as for our little kumquat here, he's just going to have to wait. If we ever had more to sample in the future, we could get a good measurement, but the best we could do is guess on what the pH might be for that one. So yeah, here are those two fruit, again, side by side. I'm pretty happy with the test for both of these, and it actually gives me a lot of hope for the Ichang lemon plant that I have, in terms of its usefulness and in terms of the fruit being approachable if we were ever to sell these at a market. I mean, they certainly are, in my opinion, desirable fruit. I already like the yuzu quite a lot, so to have basically like a bigger, juicier yuzu, in my opinion, that's pretty awesome. In terms of the OP Nagami, this is a hard one for anyone to find nowadays, really, but eventually we will try growing it ourselves. And I think if I were to grow this, I'd probably keep it in a greenhouse context until I could propagate enough to chance growing it outside, because it's a hard one to find for sure. But anyways, let's put up those scores here. So now you'll see the rankings of these fruit. They both got different things going for them in this test here, because the Ichang lemons, very large, very juicy, high quality zest, things like that. So all of those will play well into its ranking. And the OP Nagami, for its size, was very juicy with a very high quality zest, very sweet, and being dessert quality. It was a very good fruit itself. I think really the only thing going against it was its size. I forgot to put here, in terms of flavor, it was like mandarin and orange, and I mean, that's probably similar for the aroma too. They're both kind of like that. But very good, respectable fruit here. I believe both of these have pretty similar temperature ratings in terms of being able to grow these in your zone. You'd kind of want to be at least in a very warm zone 7 to try Ichang lemon. And even then, you're probably going to want a good microclimate or some good passive protection for the winter, especially if you got a very harsh one. As for the Nagami, it might be pushing it there, and I definitely think there's probably like a zone 8 minimum. However, again, this is the cold hardiest, as we know, of the kumquats here, or one of. So this particular kumquat, even though it tops the scale in that department, and kumquats are very hardy, it's just when you're trying to put them in some of these zones, I mean, they're still going to push the limits of a lot of these fruit despite their hardiness. Some areas are mostly just suitable for Trifolia hybrids or the Trifolia orange itself. So as much as you'll want to try these types of things, you end up settling with more of like a Thomasville Citrange Quat, which is more comfortable in those Zone 7 situations. Especially, I've heard reports of that going down to like a warm Zone 6, that's pretty amazing to me. Perhaps maybe if you got a lot of mild winters, but anyways, you'd have to adapt your approach depending on where you live. Both of these fruit might not be possible in your area, but if they are, they're very high quality. These are some of those fruits where, and you'll notice for a lot of these, the non-Trifolia hybrids, these have a lot of breeding potential too. And I'm definitely considering ways to introduce some of these genetics in some different crosses. And interestingly enough, we do have, and it's not going to be as high quality as this, we know that much at least, but I do have an Ichang lemon seedling that was an open pollinated seedling, and it seems to have crossed with either a Trifolia orange or some sort of hybrid of the trifoliate orange, because we do have an Ichang lemon seedling that has trifoliate and bifoliate leaves on it. So that's really exciting. It does still have some decent fragrance to the leaves too, so I would love to see this as some sort of hybrid, and if we could get something even remotely close to that, we'd have another really good hardy lemon alternative for those colder zones. Anyway, that's about it, guys, for this video. I hope you enjoyed it as always, and leave me your thoughts and comments down below, what you think of these fruit, and if you've had them too. But until the next one, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.